here. I hope you all had a happy holiday and a memorable New Year's celebration. So thank you everyone for coming. I would please ask everyone now to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, would you please lead us?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Lord, we meet here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. And as always, we thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark, as always, thank you very much. Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Kotrick,
Present.
Krug is present, Kessler is cruising, already absent, Gopal.
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have 6 members.
Thanks, Bob. All right, I'd like to know for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, our Operations Manager Tom Broker, Zoning Administrator Mike Deem, our Fire Chief, that's where I saw the Fire Chief.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Fire Chief are also present. And did I see Julia?
No, she was upstairs.
Yeah, she was upstairs, but I thought she was going to come down and join us. All right. Additionally, we have the following township officials are also present virtually via Zoom. Our township engineers, Alan and Melissa Lawrence. Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes. To the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised this meeting is being recorded to be shown on public access television, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where the public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, although public comment will be accepted during the discussion on the proposed rezoning. All other public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website, fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first order of business, which is approve the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Motion's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes, Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler is cruising again. Reed,
Yes.
Gopal. Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Moving on to the next business order is the meeting minutes. Included in the packet are the meeting minutes from the December 20th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to these meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. All right, moving on to the next business order, which is expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices?
I do have a question. We're spending a lot of money with Klein and Griffin, a matter that I'm not familiar with. What is that about?
Unemployment issue.
Okay. Is there litigation in here? I looked at these when you first shipped it over. Is there? Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I'm scrolling again. I looked at it a long time ago. Or at least it seems like a long time ago. I think that's the one I wanted to know about. Thank you, Thomas.
Any other questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $139,994.94 for payment.
So moved. Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Reed,
Yes.
Gopal. Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes, Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next business order is public hearings. We have none this evening. Moving on to the next business order is reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. None. And then the next business order is adoption of ordinances. Tonight we have rezoning R22-006, Jeff Nichols, parcel number 06-28-200-043 and 06-28-200-035, which is 15135 Pinewood Trail. Conditional rezoning from Ag to C2 for marine sales and service establishment, introduction, and this is the first reading. Our Township zoning administrator, Mike Dean, will you please review?
Yeah, so we have a request for a conditional rezoning from Ag to C2 to allow for marine sales. The property we're talking about is Hagerman's Barn, over there just off of Silver Lake Road, west of the interchange. Property is currently zoned Ag. The master plan is zoned for medium density residential. When we look at rezonings, right, the first document we look at is the master plan. A marine sales facility, all right, is not consistent with our medium density residential zoning district, which is what, again, the master plan says this area would be appropriate for. Planning Commission held a public hearing at the December meeting. We had a lot of discussion, a lot of public participation. The comments from the public revolved around concerns about property values, noise, traffic, and if this property were to become commercial, how would that affect the other properties in the area? Since again, from the master planning perspective and from the zoning ordinance perspective, it's a residential area. There was also, during the discussion, right, there was some concerns about what potential uses would be allowed under the agricultural zoning district and how some of those uses may be worse than marine sales. Potential uses that were discussed or brought up included pig farm and landscaping company. Under the zoning ordinance, right, a landscape company would require a special use permit in the agricultural zoning district. There's a number of standards that they'd have to follow, and it's questionable whether or not that would be an appropriate use in the middle of a subdivision. When considering a use such as a pig farm, right, it is agricultural property. The Right to Farm Act would be in play, but one of the aspects of the Right to Farm Act is that there are siting guidelines, and they provide protections for existing farms relating to new subdivisions. But they also provide protections for existing homes when a new farm is looking to locate. And when you get into uses such as pig farms, they look at the number of homes within a quarter mile and to determine the appropriateness of that type of use. In this situation, based on the chart provided by the state, site would not necessarily, I do not believe the site would qualify, right, for the protections of the Right to Farm Act for a pig farm. So the Planning Commission debated the request. There were 2 planning commissioners that were concerned about alternative uses, such as the pig farm and landscaping company. But ultimately, the recommendation from the Planning Commission, 6-0, because someone wasn't there, was to deny the request for rezoning for not meeting the master plan. So I'm here to answer any questions. The applicant, Mr. Nichols, is also here. I do know there's a number of people from the public that I'm going to imagine would like to make comments. There's the public comment at the end of the meeting where they're able to do so. But I'm here to answer any questions, and like I said, the applicant is also here.
All right, Mike, before we take questions, Treasurer Tucker sits on the Planning Commission. Is there anything you want to get?
No, as pointed out by someone standing behind the
Yes.
podium, somebody was missing from that meeting. I take the mystery out of who that might be. But, what Mike has told you, you know what I repeat every time one of these come before us, is this request consistent with the master plan? We addressed that issue fairly early. I will say this, we are, as you all know, looking at the master plan. I don't think the application is irrational in the sense of location and possible development of commercial areas in the township, but that's not where we're at right now. Right now, the master plan says medium density residential, and the question in my mind is it consistent with that? The answer is planning commission unanimously with one person absent, was it just not consistent.
Well, though you were absent, you always do your homework, so.
Yeah, John brings up an excellent point, right? If the use or if the zoning for this property were to change from anything other than ag or medium density residential, the time to discuss that and consider potential uses is as we look at the master plan. And so as we go through this process, it's important that the public participate. We're anticipating holding our first open house in February. I would encourage the public to follow along on our website to see when our master plan meetings are, participate, because our plan is only as good as the input we get from the public. And so I know there's a lot of concerned citizens here and online. Please keep a look at it on our website. The master plan process is very important. The more participation we can get, the better the plan.
Mike, I'm going to move it into public comment rather than having them throw questions at you at this point right now. And that way, if there are questions that you, after public comment, then you can address those.
All right?
All right? I'll now open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here present at tonight's meeting that would like to address the board regarding the proposed rezoning tonight? Yes, sir. Do you mind coming up to the podium and give us your name, please?
My name is Jeff Nichols, and I'm the owner of Aqua Sports Marine. Obviously, I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and one thing I wanted to make very clear that I think was not clear during that meeting, and going back through the minutes and looking at the application, the way that it was entered into the system, is it appears that the thought is that we're going to be storing a lot of boats outside, and we are not. That is not what we're planning to do. I know there were concerns about traffic. We're a pretty small business. I don't think that we're going to create any noticeable additional traffic at all. As far as noise, we're open from 10 in the morning till 6 at night during the week. Saturday is 10 till 3. So as far as generating traffic or having a lot of noise, I just don't see that being the case. And I want to reiterate again, we will not be storing boats outside. We had a couple of meetings at the barn with residents that we invited so they could come over and we could show them exactly what our plan is, where the boats are going to be, where we would be working on them, and how we plan to do things. So there may be some different views on what exactly we're trying to accomplish by moving our business there. The other thing, and we mentioned it before as well, in the majority of the maps that I can find on the township website, these properties are listed as commercial, ag and commercial. The only place that I can find that it says anything about R3 is if I go to the 2018 master plan. So that's something, for what it's worth, it might be very confusing to other people that are trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. It's very difficult to figure out what's what and what's okay and what's not okay. Thank you for your time.
Jeff, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that is in attendance?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm
Jeff?
really sorry. Jeff,
No.
would you?
Yeah,
Just one quick question.
Yeah.
There are existing barns there, obviously, and they're quite large.
Yes.
So your intent is to use those existing barns. Is there any intent to build additional indoor storage?
Not at this time, no. We want to keep the property exactly as it is. We want it to stay quiet. We want it to, that's part of the feel that we're going for, is to keep those barns exactly how they are, the same color, the same magnitude, exactly how it is right now. But there's no immediate plans to build other structures.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Christine.
That's all right.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else? I think you rose your hand first. Would you mind coming up to the podium and just giving us your name, please?
Hi, my name is Wendy Domke, and I live at 15046 Pinewood Trail. Thank you for taking the time to hear a resident's point of view. A little tiny bit of background. About 18 months ago, Mr. Hagerman wanted to get a special use permit to have an event barn at the listed property. And the residents were very against it. We were concerned about traffic, noise. We live in a very quiet community. Most of us have bought our properties because it is a quiet community. Pinewood Trail dead ends at Silver Lake, and the heritage side also is a cul-de-sac which dead ends. So we all bought with the notion that this is a quaint, charming, kind of in the country feel but close to the expressway. The event barn, after a few meetings with the commissioning board, Mr. Hagerman reviewed his reneged his petition, so it did not go through. So 18 months later, we're now faced with actually a much more serious issue. This is an issue of actual rezoning. Going from residential or agricultural to commercial scares me. I met with Mr. Nichols and Mr. Hagerman. They were nice enough to walk me through the property. I wanted to hear their plan. Mr. Nichols has great ideas, but I guess maybe in a legalese term, some of them are illusory, because you can have the best intentions about only having 60 boats and having enough room, but if your business grows or your business plan changes, what is to stop then from boats being outside? Or if that property is rezoned, what happens if Mr. Nichols sells that property? It doesn't go back to agricultural, it's now commercial. That's a huge concern. We have people across the street that would literally be looking at boats or boat traffic coming in basically in their backyard. So there's a lot of concern. I actually liked your opening prayer in your statement, because what I really want you to think about is this fair? Mr. Hagerman bought a barn from the Churchills many years ago. The Churchills tried to sell it for many years. They did not make it commercial. They kept the barn as the barn. When Mr. Hagerman bought it and revamped it and attempted to have a thoroughbred horse barn there, and it didn't work out, that is not all of the other residents' problem. That is something that he needs to work out. He could still sell it as a horse barn. He could do something else with it agriculturally. Or, I can only speak for myself, but as a resident, I would rather have a few mid-level density residential homes than have a commercial venue. It absolutely terrifies me. My husband and I have been there 17 years, and I don't want to look across at anything commercial. So, please consider that. If it were your property, what would you want? Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Wendy? Thank you, Wendy. Anybody else in attendance? Yes, sir.
Hi, Phil Hagerman, 1524-7 Kurtwood. I am the owner of the property. Well, I definitely recognize it's not the township's goal to create any kind of spot or pigeonhole zoning. I truly believe in my heart this is a significantly different and kind of a unique situation. First of all, as a clarification, this property has always been a commercial property. The Churchills had much more activity and much more commercial use in there than the recent owners or the recent managers of the barn under us. There were events there with hundreds of people. There were horses from all over Michigan that were at that barn on a regular basis in the 90s and the early 2000s when I lived there and watched those and had kids riding in there. This barn has always been a commercial facility for riding stables, kids academy, selling and boarding and transporting horses. And so some of the comments about how there'd be more traffic with the boats is absolutely false. There's far, far less traffic that moves in and out of Aqua Sports than there ever has been at this facility, with large horses of 5, 10, large trailers of 5 to 10 to 15 horses in there. This property has never been used in the traditional agricultural sense. There's never been crops grown on it. There's never been any processing on it. There's never been anything at this property that has been traditional use. This was a riding academy for the Churchills. It was a riding academy for the people that we leased it to. Ultimately, that didn't work out, and the goal is to sell the property under either the existing uses or under the special use permits. And to the point was, we did get approval from the township to put it into a venue. There was a lot of noise about it, and people, arguing about this and that, because people do want their property to stay exactly as it is. Times change, people's change, and things move forward in the world, and so that isn't always the case. I did get approval to change it, but didn't really want to deal with a lot of headaches with neighbors and everything else, and I pulled it back off the market for that use. But there has been no interest in the property in a traditional horse sense. I've had lots of interest in the property in other uses that meet the special use permit. And ultimately, this property is going to sell. I believe in all my heart that the existing use that Jeff wants to use for this is a very high-end facility. You guys may not know, he calls it kind of the Apple Store of boats, right? Where he's going to have a very high-end experience with significant net worth individuals from the Detroit and southeastern Michigan market coming into the Fenton area to look at these, beautiful $200,000 boats and hopefully take one off, here and there. Great for the community and things. And so I guess I would just urge the township's board to kind of consider the different uses here. And I'll wrap up here in just a minute, but in the special use permits, there are a number of rights that allow this property to be sold. And again, an event venue was one of them, and while there was a lot of noise from neighbors about the event venue, because people want things to stay the same, the Township Planning Commission approved it. I did pull it off the market, but I've got people that still want to use it for that. There are a number of other uses that are very, very commercial in nature that meet the agricultural goals. One is commercial animal production. I think that's like a slaughterhouse. One is kennels. One is landscaping centers. One is golf driving ranges. And again, the other one are event venues. These are all things that meet the special use permits that are required by law, with some guidance and some work with the township and the planning commission for this property. I believe in my heart that the use that Jeff wants to use is the least disruptive, will most likely to keep the property in the condition it's in today, will most likely be able to meet the needs and the satisfaction of the neighbors that are there. And my understanding is initially there were a lot of neighbors that were concerned and upset about this because they didn't understand what Jeff was trying to create. They thought he was going to have boats with shrink wrap all over like you see at other marinas. They thought there were going to be hundreds of boats stored outside. That is absolutely not the case, and Jeff has indicated and committed to the Township Planning Commission that it will sign documents that state that he won't be storing boats outside and everything. And so my understanding, except for maybe one or two people, the vast bulk and majority of the people in the neighborhood have now come on board and are supporting this. Now, people will speak if I'm wrong about that, but my understanding is a number of people that were against it in the past have come to me and said, now that I understand what Jeff wants to do, we are for this use because we think it's the best and highest use of the property and for the township. So I would just ask that the township give this every opportunity. It's your job and goal is to do what's best for the township while balancing the needs of the homeowners' rights and the residents' rights within there. I believe in my heart that this meets all of those goals, and I hope the township gives it, a fair amount of look to be able to see what is the best use for this property. It's going to be sold. At some point, this property is going to be sold. I'm looking to try and find the best use for everybody. Thank you. Questions for me?
Yeah, is there any questions from the board for Phil? Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that is with us today? Excuse me? Whoever has joined us via Zoom, if you could put your mute on. All right. All right. Is there someone else here that would like to address the board? Julie, I'm going to get to you at the last, if you don't mind. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board regarding this proposed rezoning? Go ahead, ma'am. If you don't mind, right here in front. Yep, I'm sorry. And go up to.
I'm not a very good speaker, so I'm just going to stay here. I just wanted to.
Can we get your name?
Christine Kazaziak.
Okay.
I live directly across the street from the barn, where the Pinewood entrance is. I've lived there for 22 years, and when we moved there, we were one of the first lots. There were houses at the end of the road that were on Silver Lake, but there were no houses directly across the street from the barn. We were the first house to buy a lot there. And I can honestly say, you've been misled, which doesn't surprise me. In the 22 years that I have lived there, there were never any events that Mr. Hageman is about activities and big event barns and horse. There might have been one small thing during the day where they did something inside with children, but I have never ever experienced anything like what he is relating to. So my husband and I were friends with the Churchills. They had bought a place in North Carolina that they had wanted to build on for years and years, were unable to because they were unable to sell the barn. That never stopped them from trying to change the barn into something else. They always wanted to keep it for the neighbors and for the property, the quaint thing. They had the capacity, they had the money, they could have done what Mr. Hageman's trying to do today. So 15 or 18 years later, they finally found a buyer. And Nancy told me herself, she said, I don't know why he's putting all this money into this. He should wait and see if it goes. Because this is not an easy market. But we didn't care. We were happy to look at the old barn the way it was. Nobody was complaining. Nobody asked him to put millions of dollars, and this wasn't Kentucky. And now we're being looked at like we're some evil people because we want to keep our property quaint and quiet. All my years, I never dreamed that this would ever come, that we would be faced with a commercial venue. Thank you.
Christine, thank you very much. Is there any question from the board for Christine? Would you like to come up? Would you mind coming to the podium and giving us your name? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sharon McAndrew. I live at 15155 Pinewood Trail. My husband and I are for the barn. We were for the event barn. We are for this barn. And I will tell you, I had reservations about the event barn, but I went and sat down with Phil's son-in-law, Dan, and he explained everything that they were going to do to it. They had the acoustics tested, they had everything done, they had everything in order. Because there was so much resistance, they backed away from it. This time, they've come to you guys again, asking you to rezone this. And it was my understanding at the rezoning, meeting that we were at, that they would give this land use permit to Jeff, but if Jeff ever sold the property, it would go back to agriculture, and the next person would have to fight their battle. That is the way, and I even asked one of the supervisors afterwards if that was my understanding, and they said it was. Jeff has been a long, upstanding citizen of Fenton. He has done nothing but for the good of Fenton. He is a man of his word. If the township puts in there that he can't store boats outside, there's no fight to be fought. You don't store boats outside. As far as the Churchills go, and they live directly next door to us, what the Churchills did with the barn has no ramification as to what Mr. Hageman did to the barn. If Mr. Hageman wanted to put millions of dollars into that barn, that was his prerogative. It's people getting so involved with what he did and their attitudes against him, I believe, that everybody's judgment is very clouded. And I hope you guys as a board realize that the Churchills do not own it anymore. Yes, we would all like to see it like it is. Breaks my heart that the lights were turned off. but I don't blame him. I wouldn't pay that for the flack that he's getting. But I guess my point is, every time as things progress, and you guys are in for the planning commission to do all of the updates, and we're gonna see where the township wants to go, this is for the good. There's not going to be, Silver Lake Road is not gonna be any busier with that business in there than what it is now. It is a major thoroughfare between Fenton to Linden, and it is crazy. The other thing I want to tell you is, there's some people that are for this, and what I did was drove down the street. There are some people, like she said, she lives directly across, she does live directly across from that barn on Pinewood Trail. There are people that can barely see the barn that are not for this. I don't get it. I do not get that. Like I said, Jeff Nichols is an upstanding citizen of this town, and he is a reputable guy. If he says it's gonna be that way, it will be that way. But all of you, please, take a look at what we could have to deal with as a neighborhood. You guys know what can go in there. You people up there, out of anybody, knows what can go in that property. Everybody's worried about their property values. Go ahead and put $200,000 homes in there. You tell me what you just did to your property value. So I just wish that you would reconsider what the zoning commission did a month ago. Because I do not think it's fair to Mr. Hagerman, and I think it's time to get to where that property is used, and what Jeff is gonna do with that, it is gonna be even more beautiful than what it was before. Thank you.
Sharon, thank you very much. Any questions from Sharon at all? Anyone that is here present? Yes, sir. Come up.
I do have a question I guess I could ask beforehand. Rob McAndrew from, same address, 15155 Pinewood Trail. If this is zoned residential, or one of the uses, how many houses would you project that could go in there residential? Or is that not a fair question?
It's difficult to do without seeing a plan.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I don't think there's a lot of wetland issues out here. Generally speaking, in a medium density residential, with an open space type plan, you can get 1.5 units per acre.
So
And
maybe
I'm looking for the acreage here.
25?
25,
So
so
25
30,
houses or so?
37, somewhere in that neighborhood, in the 30s range.
Okay, so
There
it,
might be some wetlands up front also.
Is there some
you are
wetlands?
correct. But let's say it's 25, okay? 25 houses, let's say 20, okay? You're shaking your head,
Well,
just.
the front part of that property.
No, no,
is all
and we
wetlands.
agreed with.
Let's just not
with
have
you.
dialogue
Yeah.
here. Let's,
Yeah, no, I agree with what he's saying. There is wetland, and I agree with what she's saying. But let's say it's 20, okay? 20 households coming in and out of that neighborhood is gonna be far more significant and a lot less quaint than 100 boats for a season or whatever we're projecting here. That's one of my big concerns, more than the $200 houses or whatever. But that's gotta be thought of too, because that all of a sudden, every household's got a couple cars, so now we're talking 50 or 60 cars or whatever. That's one question. The other question I got for you, would that land be usable for like a solar panel farm?
you could probably do it, but I would think you need a special use permit. I'd have to go back and look at the
Well,
ordinance.
I'm thinking that you probably could, because I know the issues they got going out toward Owasso, and the solar panel farms out there are a real eyesight. If you want to see something to think about more than 100 boats in the spring and 100 boats in the fall, or however it works. And I got to admit, I don't know exactly how his business works. I'm convinced that you're probably not going to see anything different than what you do right now. I'm guessing most of the traffic will be coming in off Silver Lake Road. But it's just a couple questions that I have that I think everybody should consider, because there's a lot more evils out there than a reputable business owner that will take care of the property, respect the property, and really sounds like he's gonna respect our views too.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it. I really honestly do. Anyone else that's in attendance that would like to address the board on this rezoning? Julia, you walked it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see you. Would you like to come up? Yeah.
Hello, Ken Arbel. I'm at 15130 Heritage. And actually, my property does back up to the barn. Everybody else lives down the road or across the road, but my property is the one by the out barn that you see in the map. You have the main barn and then the smaller barn, which is not small by any means. That's my backyard, right to the east of it. I am retired. I like my deck. I enjoy sitting on my deck as much as I can throughout the best weather. But the activity, I don't mind. It's a couple of concerns I have. As you look at the map, it's all residential completely around it. And you want to change it to commercial right in the middle of it. Now, would there be a better spot for a commercial business? Maybe right at the road or down the road? I don't know. But I don't know Mr. Nichols, I don't know Mr. Hagerman, and they gotta do what they gotta do, and their business is their business, and my business is my business, and I kinda think that it might heed into my business with a commercial building where I live. Now, I appreciate it, and Mr. Nichols did clarify that there wouldn't be all these boats being stored, because I didn't want to see all the boats. Now, I would ask you, going into the master plan, what you foresee this whole area to be, and what conditions could we put if you proceeded to go with this commercial, rezone this? Is there conditions you could put on his business or that property? What happens if it comes to a point, either way, if it becomes positive or negative, he's got to expand, or they're not doing well, inflation, whatever it may be, he's got to sell the business. Now, then, do we have a strip store put in there, a small strip store, or does he want to increase his business? Are there conditions that can be put on that? I don't know if, say, he decides to sell, he outgrew what he wants to put there. Would it go back to ag or residential? I don't think it would, but you probably know that better than I do. I'm just looking to see, does that really fit in the commercial aspect of it, where it's surrounded all by residential right there? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else? Yes. Ready to come up?
Hello, my name's Brad Shea. I'm the general manager at Aqua Sports Marine. Not to beat a dead horse at this point, I just would hope to reiterate to the board and to the residents that have concerns of just exactly what our plans are. What we're offering is a way for the residents to keep the property exactly as it is, which is, from all I've heard from these last two meetings and the personal meetings that we've had with the residents, is that we understand the concerns. If we were neighbors, we would have these same concerns, and we want to keep the property exactly as it is as well. Part of the reason we want the property is because it is it's what we're striving to achieve. So rather than renovate this barn into a business, we want to move our business into what this barn already is. We want everything to be exactly as it is. As far as the front parcel that is vacant, we basically have no use for that. The use we have is the driveway there. We want our business to come in and out from Silver Lake Road. We would seek a Silver Lake Road address. The entrance off Pinewood, we would imagine, would have to remain for fire safety reasons, and it's just already there. But the use of that drive would be discontinued. That front parcel, we've heard talks of the plans for a bike path or walking path or whatever it is. We had imagined that property would be available to be used by whatever powers that be that need that property to establish this trail without resistance from us. And we really just want to install a business into the property as is, with only the changes being internal changes that we would need to make things easier for us. We hope to, we've had a lot of correspondence with Mr. Arbel about being very sensitive to the fact that the Heritage Lane residents, their properties all back up directly to the barn and are the closest proximity to it. So we would offer planting evergreen trees along that entire property line to establish a green barrier. And I think what we're offering is just a way for the residents to keep the property as is, and we're willing to bend over backwards to make everybody happy, because we certainly don't want to move into a turbulent situation where we're already at battle with our neighbors. We genuinely want to be neighbors and just run our small business from this existing barn. I think that's it. I should have taken notes.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Anyone else in attendance that would like to address the board on the proposed rezoning?
Just a quick question.
Hearing none, I'll move to anyone that's attending via Zoom.
One more, Joe.
Oh, wow.
Moved around a little bit.
All right.
Richard Halliday at 15140 Heritage Lane. First thing, I want to ask a question. I heard earlier here that when this parcel was going to be sold, it would revert back to agricultural. Is that a true statement?
Requires, it's a legislative act, it would require rezoning. And you can't put into the conditions that it reverts back, at least that I'm aware of.
Correct.
That would be my understanding, that it couldn't automatically revert back, so that would require more hearings and coming back to get it rezoned back, which I think it's probably fair to say it's not likely to happen. Once it goes commercial, it'll be commercial in perpetuity, which of course anything can happen, but I wanted to clarify that. I'd like to observe that Mr. Nichols has just nothing but a great reputation here in town, and I don't doubt his good thoughts and good intentions, but we all know that life happens, conditions change, and what happens 2 years or now for 5 years from now, and it's no longer his business to run, and we just think about having this commercial property in the area. I have some obvious concerns about that, and just in the interest of brevity, I have a slightly different take than what Mr. Hagerman had, that when I wander around these areas and talk to neighbors, I don't have any sense at all that a lot of the neighbors are on board with this. Some people are, obviously, but a lot of people also are not. So I just wanted to clarify in disagreement with that statement. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Richard. All right, try not to make another mistake. I'll make sure that I can, hold on one second, Jeff. Is there anyone else that'd like to address the board? Yes.
excuse me, Dan Farrell, 15171 Pinewood Trail. Just one quick question. It was our understanding that from the Planning Commission, had they approved it to be zoned commercial, it would have a specific use as a marine sport use, right? So if Jeff were to sell, the next usage would have to be a marine sport use. Is that not true?
Well, just back up with the basic premise. All the planning commission does, I don't mean to just diminish what they do, but they make a recommendation to the township board. Township board is the one that actually makes the decision, okay? And this particular application is for C2 with conditions. And I'm not 100% clear, but it looks to me like the conditions were C2 limited to marine sales and services with outdoor storage. Looks like there's conditions about the hours of operation, 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, 10 to 3 on Saturday, and then it looks like there's a condition of storage of boats, 40 outside, 60 inside. So if that ordinance were to be adopted, that's what could be done at that property until some other legislative act by the board happened to change it to something different.
So to address the previous gentleman, he couldn't just sell it to somebody else and they could use it for any C2 use?
Not when you have conditional zoning. It doesn't, and that's the beauty of conditional zoning, it doesn't open up the whole panoply of C2 uses. If you were just rezone it as C2 straight without conditions, then all of those potential uses would be possible without a rezone.
Gotcha. All right. And one of the other things I wanted to point out, if you board members have not been out there, one of the things that we did when we renovated the barn is we put a brand new driveway in, right? So it comes off of Silver Lake Road. And I understand their concerns about, you know, the traffic. When there was a horse facility there the last 4 years, the traffic never came down Pinewood Trail. The traffic came down the dirt road off of Silver Lake Road. So there's not additional traffic that's coming through Pinewood Trail. That traffic's coming down the driveway that is off of Silver Lake Road. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Are you addressing something new, ma'am?
I just want to make a comment to what he just said.
Okay.
Okay, living across the street from Pinewood, on Pinewood Trail, a retail venue versus the few horses and the few people that came for riding lessons in the last 4 years is a whole lot different. There's no comparison. I've seen the traffic that comes down Pinewood Trail, living right there. I've seen them turn around because they can't get through the gate part. You know, he doesn't realize the traffic because he lives down by the lake, which I'd like to say respectfully, some of the other people that have spoke that said, you know, it doesn't concern them, and they think it's great, because they don't live on that main thoroughfare like I do and the other neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Is she talking about traffic to the barn or people that live on Pinewood Trail? I couldn't hear most of what you said.
Traffic to the barn.
That
To the
gate
barn.
is closed, the gate's been closed for years. There's no
Yes,
traffic
and I
to the
watched
barn.
them, yeah, this is before it got closed. I watched them pull up Pinewood Trail and then turn around and go back around the other way.
All right,
I
let's stop.
visually.
Years ago.
We got to stop the
Before the barn
dialogue
got
between the two
closed.
of you.
Yeah.
We have to move this meeting on. Jeff, is there something new that you want to
There is.
address?
That's-
Please come up to the podium. Thank you, Jeff.
When I started this process, it was very confusing again because of the maps. I figured I'd be able to just go to the township website and find out, hey, this is zoned commercial, C2, residential. I couldn't find that. So I came up and spoke with Mr. Deem and said, this is what would like to do, so on and so forth. We had discussions and I said, and I specifically asked this question, if this were to get zoned for me to be able to do this, and I kick the bucket or I'm hurt in a car crash, and that place has to go to something different, is there any way that we can make sure that there's not gonna be a strip mall in there, or there's not going to be a Walmart that goes in there, or whatever the case may be? And he said, yes. What you need to ask for is a conditional zoning permit. So I took that upon myself, knowing that if I did have to get rid of that, it's not gonna be as easy to sell it or get rid of the property, if you will. So I do have the residents' concerns in my mind. I grew up in that area. I grew up before her house was even built there. I used to run around before the barn was there. Progress is coming. We'd ride our bikes there. Now all those houses are there. That is kind of a bummer to me. Heritage Lane was not there. That's kind of a bummer to me, but that's progress. I was fortunate enough to be born and raised on Silver Lake. Right across the street, it was wide open cornfields and fields for us to ride our motorcycles, go fishing in ponds that were back there. Now what's there? Home Depots, all of Silver Lake Village. Progress is coming. So at some point, that property is going to get sold, and if we don't get approved to move the boat dealership there, it's going to break my heart to see a bunch of not as nice homes on that area or whatever else might show up there. So I do have a general concern, whether Aquasports gets approved or not, of what's going to go in there if we don't get it. And I think that some of the residents might be sorry if we don't get it, of what could go in there. That's
Thanks,
it.
Jeff. I appreciate it. All right, you've already spoken, ma'am. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and,
Board, I just wanted to ask a question to Mr. Tupper specifically. Can I do that?
yes.
Did you say, sir, that under the current proposal for the boat dealership itself, that the conditions were 60 indoor boats and 40 outdoor boats? Did I hear you correctly?
Let me see, I think you did
That
repeat
is
what he
correct.
said. I'm looking at
Because-
outdoor storage for 40 boats, indoor storage for up to 60.
Okay,
Yes.
so I wanted to make sure I heard that because we're hearing only indoor boats. Again, I wanted to make sure that I'm hearing that that's what you're saying is
Yeah,
that,
I'm looking at a
Okay.
summary from Mr. Deem. Mr. Deem, did the conditions change at all during the hearing?
So, as Mr. Nicholas said earlier, right, during the meeting, he was willing to remove the outdoor storage. So, there you go.
Remove it, but
Well, so that would not be one of the conditions of
yes, absolutely.
There was a vote, right, during the planning commission, there was a vote on, with conditions of no outdoor storage, but there were 2 A's and 4 nays.
Correct, yeah. So that was based on, the discussion that came up during the meeting. But again, the recommendation from the planning commission is denial of the request for not meeting the master plan as itself. While I'm up here, one quick additional clarification. I know Mr. Hageman had said that he'd received approval for an event barn. He had not. The planning commission didn't get an opportunity to make a decision either way. The application was withdrawn before a decision was made.
Yeah, we were told that
Thank you.
the decision was gonna be positive, but I did withdraw. But my understanding was we had met every requirement, we were told we were gonna get approved.
All right.
I really have to follow up to the outdoor storage.
No, we're gonna move on, Jeff. We really should. Is it anything that directly, that you feel is gonna make a difference in the impacts of this board?
I think that it may. I think that it may.
Give you a minute,
I
let's
will
go.
make it very quick. When I submitted my original letter to the planning commission, there was no mention of outdoor storage whatsoever, at all. I was not able to, and I'm not able to today either, on the website to be able to pull up a lot of the stuff that's on there. I was not able to read what was in the comments or the specifics from Mr. Deem until after the meeting took place, and it says that we plan to store up to 40 boats outdoors, and that is not what my letter said. And we can go back and read through it. I was very upset about that. So I don't, That's not what my letter said, but when it was given to the planning commission, that was slipped in there. And I do want to say that from day one, I was told 3 times that this was not going to happen. What do I need to do to get rezoned? It's not going to happen. Where's property? It's not going to happen. 3 times I was told that before I ever stepped in front of the planning commission. And then that 40-boat storage got slipped in there. I'm not happy.
Mike, you can
All
address
right.
that.
I don't want to do he said, she said. However, that's probably an accurate statement, right? That he was told this was not going to happen. And the reasoning is the same reason why the planning commission went through their findings of fact for rezoning. First document we look at is what does the master plan say? Master plan says this area has been identified for medium density residential. I don't see a path where you can say a commercial use of retail sales for boats is consistent with the medium density residential classification. So yes, I did say it's highly unlikely that your request will be approved. In the packet you have, there is a site plan that shows outdoor storage.
Site plan that was submitted to,
That was submitted as part of the application. It shows locations for outdoor storage in multiple locations on the plan. The letter does say that he currently has 30 to 40 boats being stored outdoors. So again, this is all part of the application that was submitted to the township.
all right. I am going to close it up for public comment here. To be fair, I do want to open it up to, is there anybody that's attending via Zoom that would like to address the board on this proposed rezoning? If so, please turn on your mic and address the board. No one that's attending Zoom. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment session of this, and just to let everybody know, the second reading and vote on this adoption for the proposed rezoning amendment will be conducted at the January 17th meeting. All right? So does everybody understand that? This was the chance for the public to speak. The second reading and the vote on the adoption will be, for the proposed rezoning amendment will be conducted at our next meeting, which is on January 17th.
So that everyone is clear, that it's not something we're choosing to do tonight, that is the
That's
process.
the process.
By which rezonings happen under the statute. So this is nothing different, nothing unusual, okay? But the actual vote is 2 weeks from tonight.
Correct. All right, moving on to the next order of business, which is unfinished business. Unfinished business. This is proposed amendment to the 2022 Thompson Road Corridor Water Improvement Agreement, proposed revision to the Water System Agreement, Southern Lakes Extension Phase 2, and the proposed Water System Agreement, Southern Lakes Extension Phase 3. I'm sure you've all reviewed the information in your packet. Read this again. With the recent decision by the City of Linden to connect to the Genesee County water system, the cost allocation for the previously approved Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects has changed. The Linden decision has created a Phase 3 project to extend the water line to the city limits. Included in the board packet are an amendment. This was an amendment to the agreement for Phase 1 of the municipal water project, which allocates 24% of the cost to the City of Linden and reduces the cost for Fenton Township and Mundy Township. A revised agreement for Phase 2 of the project, which allocates cost to the City of Linden and reduces cost for Fenton Township. A proposed agreement for Phase 3 of the project, which extends the water line further west along Leering Road and south on Ripley Road to connect to Linden's existing water lines. The cost of this phase is split evenly between Fenton Township and the City of Linden. Really, the end result is an additional 2.5 miles of water lines along Leering and Ripley Roads for Phase 3 and a net cost reduction of approximately $848,000 for Fenton Township. Those are the three things that this board will be considering tonight. Remember, or I just want to remind the constituents and those attending via Zoom that the board has already approved Phase 1 and Phase 2. Okay, I need a motion. Well, I guess, I'm sorry, is there any board comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
As far as a cost reduction in phase one with Linden chipping in, isn't that kind of dependent on whether we agree to the phase three?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Well, phase one, which is already, that's the Thompson Road corridor, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're saying Linden's gonna chip in with the phase one?
Yes. What happens is when you connect, since
Yeah,
they're using our line,
understood.
then yes.
But
They
then-
go back to phase one, and they'll, part of that, they pay for part of that also.
I think the point might
But
be,
you're
if I can
correct.
interrupt.
Yeah.
Maybe we should vote on phase three first,
That's my point.
because without phase three,
You
the
don't-
changes to one and two can't happen.
Thank you.
Oh,
Which
Linden wouldn't be very happy.
yeah, I would happy to move on.
That's where I was at. Tom hit it right on that.
All right. All right, I will move on then to phase three. I need a motion to approve the water system agreement, Southern Lakes Extension, phase three, as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved, supported. Any further discussion? Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Cottrick,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. Tucker,
Yes.
Gopel.
No.
All right,
Motion passes
thanks, Bob.
5-1.
All right, I will need a motion, okay, I need a motion to approve Amendment 1 to the 2022 Thompson Road Corridor Water Improvements Agreement as presented.
So moved.
Support?
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk
Yeah,
Crew,
I have a
please.
discussion on this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Since we just voted on three, and that's passed, so now we're gonna connect with Linden. What now exactly is one doing? Is it just reducing the price?
It's allocating a portion of the cost to Linden. It doesn't change the scope of the project, but now, because they will benefit from this phase one project, they're paying for part of it, which reduces the cost for Mundy and Fenton Townships.
So everybody knows where I stand in the water.
Right.
So, I'm not for Linden connecting. I think it's gonna, in 10, 20 years down the road, we're gonna regret this, but. So, now that three's done, one is strictly just to have Linden pay their share of one, since it's already coming to them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
It
Jack?
amends what's already been approved to change the cost allocation.
Which reduces our costs.
Which reduces our cost.
And the same is true with the revision to two, right?
So, Tom, I guess I would may disagree at this point by voting three in if two didn't, which is, didn't pass.
Well,
then
it's sort of a package deal.
that's what I'm saying. So, to me, well, was your question answered?
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All right, I need a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the 2022 Thompson Road Corridor Water Improvement Agreement as presented. Oh, we already did that.
Motion seconds done.
Sorry, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Cottrick,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. I vote yes. Gopel.
No.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next I need a motion to approve the revised water system agreement, Southern Lakes Extension, Phase 2, as presented.
So moved.
Support?
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Taking wagers on what the outcome of the vote is gonna be.
What's the bet? Let's hear that first.
The over under.
Okay.
You wanted to vote this down and then.
I'll quit being a smart aleck. For a minute, not for long.
Any other further discussion? All right, hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Well, it's on the chart. Gopel.
No.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Cottrick,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. Motion passes 5-1.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to the next business in order, which is new business, the proposed 2023 summer property tax collection agreements with Linden, Fenton, and Genesee Intermediate School Districts. I'm sure we've reviewed the memo in our packets. Treasurer Tucker, do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, every time these come up, I always, I think Tom probably even initiates them, tells me that they're up. And my first question is always, you know, are we covering our costs here? And the response to that question is yes, and we're probably doing a little better than covering our costs. So I just thought it, you know, at this point in time when there's all kinds of inflationary pressures, there wasn't any real reason for us to contribute to that mayhem. So we will look at it as we do every time and make sure that we're recouping our costs and adjusting the rates if necessary. But right now, my recommendation is we just keep them where we are, knowing that we're covering our costs and probably then some.
I agree. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none. Okay, I need a motion to approve the 2023 summer tax collection agreement with Linden Community Schools as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Kessler is absent, Reed,
Yes.
Cottrell,
Yes.
Krug votes yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. Next,
6-0.
next, I need a motion to approve the 2023 summer tax collection agreement with Fenton area schools as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lorraine,
Yes.
Cottrell,
Yes.
Kessler is absent, Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
I vote yes, Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. Next, I need a motion to approve the 2023 summer tax collection agreement with the Genesee Intermediate School District as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Kessler is absent, Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes, Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Cottrell,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is the revised GCRC, or Genesee County Road Commission Road Agreement, Golden Shores Street Improvement Special Assessment District. Operations Manager Broker, can you please provide additional information?
Yes, I know we discussed this a little bit in the special meeting. If you remember, Golden Shores and Enid Boulevard special assessment projects were bid together by the County Road Commission. When they bid it out in the summer, they got only one bid, and it was about double the estimated cost for both roads. So that was ultimately rejected by the township, and the road commission rebid the projects in December. The new bids were much more competitive, with the low bid resulting in only a 3% increase for Enid, 280 to 289, but a 17% increase for Golden Shores, which is 435 to 515. Since the bids are tied together, the low bid must be accepted or rejected in total. The road commission suggested utilizing their construction match program, which is specifically for special assessment projects, to reduce the cost, the amount assessed to the property owners in the Golden Shores SAD. Under this program, both the township and the road commission would absorb 10% of construction cost, in this case about $50,000, 51,000 I think, thereby reducing the amount assessed to the property owners. So they provided the agreement to, revise that contract to incorporate that construction match from both the township and the county. It's a limited program that the county piloted last year. They had some funds left. At most we might have the opportunity to do one project a year with this approach, but it's subject to board approval. So I believe it's a good situation to use this option for this project, but ultimately it falls to the board to decide if you want to move in that direction.
Thanks, Tom. All right, are there any questions from the board?
So with those matching funds, if we were to apply them both from the county and from us, what is the overage percentage then of the bid?
It actually comes in a little under the original amount. I didn't do the percentage, but I think on the chart we looked at at the special meeting, the assessments went from 6,000
So it'll bring us to.
it went from 6,000 per parcel to about 5,700. So would knock about $300 off what was projected in the estimate per parcel.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah,
Yes,
I guess
Jake.
I just wanted to mention, we talked about this a little, earlier, but this isn't exactly the normal process that we normally go through with special assessment districts. Township normally doesn't put any money in. In the county, this county program, while I'm sure well-intentioned, is kind of putting us in an awkward spot where we can get matching funds from them for our residents, by putting in the township money and departing from our normal practices, or we can turn down the matching funds and retain our normal practice of, just having the residents who actually benefit from these pay for them. So I just wanted to mention that for the public.
No, that's a good point, and just also to clarify also that this is a one-time, there's very limited funds, so it's
Right.
not like we would be always doing the match, or would we
Right.
ever be in a position to always doing that.
No.
It's very limited funds.
Right.
So it would be kind of a, okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and then to kind of follow up on that, one of the concerns, because the county decided to bid these together, we're not in a position where we can accept the portion of the bid that applies to Enid without accepting Golden Shores and vice versa. So it's either accept both projects or reject both projects. Because Golden Shores is more than 10% over the original estimate, they have the opportunity to ask the board to kill the project, basically. And so this was a way to avoid that potential situation. It's a unique, an unusual circumstance that we're dealing with.
Are there any other options or situations where we could apply those matching funds from the county, or is this the only project before us to which it would apply?
Right now, this is the only one we could use it on.
Tom, I'm just not thinking right. Where did the 51,000 come from?
It's 10% of the construction bid.
But would now it's a matching fund, so is any amount would they match, or it has 51,000 or no?
It's 10%.
Okay, so I guess because I'm asking is because with us contributing township money to a specific neighborhood, we're actually going to make their assessment less than what it was that they originally agreed on. Is this correct?
That is true.
Okay, I just want to let you know where I'm thinking here. That's all, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, I'm gonna move on to the motion. Okay, I need a motion to approve the revised local road agreement with the Genesee County Road Commission for the Golden Shores Street Rehabilitation Project as presented.
So moved.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
No.
Gopal,
No.
Tucker,
No.
Kessler is absent, Lorraine,
No.
I vote no, Kotrick,
No.
motion fails.
I would suggest then,
A motion.
in preparation for, because we still need to schedule public hearings on both projects, I think it might be a good idea to get the informal survey started now, so once we have the hearing scheduled, we'll know whether the people want to continue with the 17% increase or not.
Because they still have the option, though it's 10%, they can opt out, but it was 17, they can still agree to do it.
Oh, they can, yes, and maybe they will, maybe they won't see it as a deal killer, I just didn't know that this is an option, but rather than get all the way to the hearing, only to say, oh, now we need to do the survey.
I
We
would
could
certainly
send it
agree
out
with you.
ahead of time, and that way, by the time we have the hearing, because the next meeting we'll schedule the hearing, and the hearing won't be held till the second meeting in February, so that gives us some time to get that out and have those results back before we have the hearing.
Right, but we don't need board action on that, so we can
No,
just,
we'll just send it
just for a
out.
discussion item that, so I would agree with Tom, we should go ahead and do that. That was a great idea from Tucker for last time, and I certainly think the process worked well, the response rate was high, and I think that's something we will certainly incorporate into the future.
Before we go on, I just want to make it clear, I don't think the concept was a bad concept. I
think Kate hit the nail on the head. The county has put us between the proverbial rock and the hard place. And to Mark's point at the meeting, you know, if I could give 10% to every, you know, subdivision that came in front of me and I had the money to do that, then
We would do it.
I wouldn't have any hesitation, but we are literally between a rock and a hard place. And I think Mark's point's a valid one. How are you gonna look the next one in the eye and say, I'm sorry, you weren't the first one?
Well, we talked about it upstairs, and that's a good point, and that's something I am gonna call Sean about, and talk to him about, because I think what we talked about in the special meeting was the fact that we were given this great opportunity, but with no guidelines. And without guidelines, we're just picking and choosing, and that puts us in a position as a board, I think, is not a position we wanna be in.
And I guess we also mentioned earlier, I mean, part of the reason it was a hard decision was because now we're missing out on those, that 50,000, and, you know, some other municipality within Fenton, or within Genesee County will probably get it. And so, I mean, I would just, in general, feel that, you know, the program's maybe not well designed. I'm not sure, they might only be able to use it if they have matching funds from the municipality, but then maybe they shouldn't be using it on these.
Allocated,
That is,
spread it around.
that is the condition.
Yeah,
It's
so.
a 10% match on both sides.
Yeah, and I don't think
correct.
that was the county imposing.
Get rid of the match,
That-
allocate, spread around. If we get 50 cents, we get 50 cents. We'll
Yeah.
take our share, but it doesn't put us in that very difficult position.
Yeah, or if it just has to go into the local roads and they
Right.
can't.
Right.
Because I think they might have to get matching funds from municipalities to do. I don't think it's necessarily Genesee County imposing it on us. I think it might be some higher power imposing it on them. But I think it's a really awkward position where they're asking municipalities to then like favor individual neighborhoods.
And I agree with you, Kate, in the sense that I think most, if not all municipalities are gonna be in the same position we're in.
Right.
They're gonna have to think seriously
Yeah,
about
nobody's
how-
got a bunch of money laying around to be doing subdivision roads.
Well, and it's also picking and choosing.
Right.
So, without criteria.
Yeah.
If they said, you know, if there was X, X, and X, it would be a very easy decision for us, because I think maybe we would make those decisions.
Right, it'd be like
Low
CBDG
income,
money.
CBG money,
You know, you say
whatever.
meet the criteria, you don't meet the criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, makes it very easy for us. All right, moving on, next thing under new business is proposed airport license agreement, State Bank Trail. I'm sure you've all read the memo in the packet. We do have Ed with us today. Are you gonna be the one? Is Jeff, or Jeff, are you gonna be the one coming up tonight?
We'll tag team it.
Yeah, all right, you're gonna tag team it, so why don't you come up and,
So, I'm happy to report at least tonight that of the 18 initial easements that we thought we would need, we've got progress on all of them in a positive way. The last one has agreed. We haven't got that paperwork back yet. But this one actually wasn't an easement. It was an agreement basically where the pathway crosses the airport driveway. And they're whatever the legal is, and that's why Jeff is here, they don't need to give us an easement. They just need to give us this agreement to use the property. And it's at no cost, and it's as good as it can be, really, for us.
engineer there, Jeff, I'm sure you'll explain.
That's because it's state of Michigan property, right?
Thank you. Yeah, as I was going to say, is basically when governmental agency owns the property, usually it's a license agreement, and that's the case in this situation. The state of Michigan owns this property. They're not going to give an easement in perpetuity, so the license agreement is the way to go. So they've prepared the license agreement that you have before you, pretty standard agreement, from what I can see, and just need that executed.
Yes?
I have something to say. So why is it the township instead of the pathways or Southern Lakes? I mean,
It's because the land is actually physically in the township. The easements that have been procured to date in the township have been procured under the township's name, with the right to transfer ownership of those easements to a different entity as appropriate.
being the attorney just for the township and not caring about anything else, that's not how I would want to pick it, but be that as it may. I mean, the township isn't doing this. I mean, we're, whatever, just is the attorney only concerned about the township there's no upside to the township to be the one doing this. I mean, Southern Lakes, somebody else ought to do it.
Is there a downside? Is there any
Well, you never-
liability? Is there?
Well, whoever knows, you have a license agreement, you have certain obligations under that, there's provisions to terminate it and whatnot.
I was gonna say there's
But-
provisions in determining.
Yeah, but of course, when the termination comes about, there's always some liability anytime you have control of anything. I mean, you have liability if a meteorite hits a car in the parking lot here. How much, who knows? There's always some liability. Well,
For real?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because maybe, maybe you should have done some,
Heck,
some
yeah.
attorney's gonna file a lawsuit.
Oh, well, yeah, cause,
I'm not gonna say they win, that's two different things, but, so yeah, you could be on the hook for something here, but I would just, if I were picking, I'd pick Southern Lakes or somebody else have this license agreement and have the easements also, but be that as it may, I don't know what the state's position would be or not be on it.
would that be something that we would,
Well, when you transfer.
give this piece of property to Southern Lakes, this across
Well,
the
yeah,
driveway
right,
thing?
you assign that with an indemnity clause, but you're still in the chain.
Yeah, you're
But,
still in the
yeah,
chain.
But,
And
you would
it's
assign
state
it with an
property.
indemnity clause. Well, no, it's not state property. Well, yeah, the
Yeah, it
driveway
is
is
state
on state
property.
property, right? Yeah, but so nonetheless, we're in control of it.
I know where you're at, it's just, this is why grassroots politics is where it's at. is
Yeah.
You go county, it gets bottlenecked, and state gets all attorney row over here. Are you in agreement with that, John?
He's maybe not as paranoid as I am.
That's your job, though.
That-
I
that's,
get it.
That's your
That's a
job.
good description, because what's happening is we're giving a property right, and some property that we don't own to facilitate a project, that we're gonna assign the rights over to somebody else to deal with. Is there potential liability in there? Yes, hypothetically, you can come up with it, but we're lawyers, we can always come up with hypothetical liability, okay? We have insurance, I don't see a real downside to this with insurance availability. We're running naked, we should be out of office.
Right,
So,
Right.
So I get it, I don't, Jack's not being illogical.
It's his job, I get it.
Yeah,
With-
yeah.
With the other easements, right, it was the township's power that was being used to get the easement. I mean, they weren't voluntary
No.
entirely, were they?
Well, up to this point, I think everything's been
Yeah,
negotiated.
everything
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
negotiated.
Yeah.
Just because this is state property.
Okay, so this is just, yeah, so this they could, presumably Southern the state may, it wouldn't have to be us to do this part, but we probably could without.
Probably so, yeah.
That's probably what's gonna happen, is it's probably gonna be assigned.
And
That's
then
an
this is
issue.
gonna come up every 15 years.
Right.
I'll be deeply concerned about it then.
Yeah, right.
Just to point out a couple of thoughts here, is I know there's a lot of
ahead, Jim.
resolutions that have been passed along the way for this project, and where maintenance responsibility falls, all of those things have been spelled out in prior resolutions, and I do believe that the agreement before you is pretty innocuous as it relates to that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board?
Well, actually, I just wanted to ask real quick, it says it could be, so after 15 years, it may be extended an additional 15 years upon mutual agreement of the parties, so then does that mean after, at 15 years from now, assuming the trail's there and everything, we'll probably want to extend it, and presumably they'll still mutually agree, the state will with us. After that, we'll then need a new agreement.
I think we just write a letter asking to extend it, so somebody's gonna have to put that in their calendar for 15 years from now to.
Okay, no, but I'm saying in 30 years, when, because this says it can be extended for 15 years.
I think that's every 15.
Okay, that's in perpetuity, we can just keep extending it for 15 years.
Probably.
I think really the state's trying to protect their interests. If they wanna do something different with the property,
If they-
then
yeah,
they're just
find
gonna
such
tell
and
you to
such.
get off, and then
Right.
we're gonna, but I don't think they have any reason to wanna take the trail off of there unless there's a specific reason. And if you look at the easement itself, it's just crossing their access, their only access to the property. I don't see that going away.
Alright, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the Linden Price Airport License Agreement as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Cutter?
Yes.
I vote no. Kessler's absent. Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. Yep. All right, next under new business is replacement of a township vehicle. Operations Manager Broker, will you please review?
Yes, and this was added today, so I apologize for the lateness, but bottom line is, we got a repair quote on an old blue, you've seen that in the parking lot. It's 2004 Silverado, 99,000 plus miles, $5,400 for about a list of about 10 different things that needed to be done. Looked on Kelly Blue Book, retail between 5 and 7. So I think we've reached the point of no return. And so I'm recommending that we purchase a replacement vehicle for the ordinance enforcement officer. I went through local dealerships, online, Carfax specifically, and found one right in Fenton at Canterbury of all places. A 2021 Chevy Colorado work truck, less than 25,000 miles. Carfax value is $31,300. We can get it out the door for $28,500. And they also offered it an extended warranty for bumper to bumper and powertrain for another $550 if that's of any interest.
How many miles?
20.
For the extended warranty?
It takes the bumper to bumper to 63 and the powertrain to 103,000.
So under 25, and we're going up to 63 for $550.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal, personally.
Mm-hmm. So that would, just to make sure, Tom, I have the numbers right, would make that at $29,050, right?
29,062?
We're, okay, you said 28,500.
Well,
Did I miss-
28,512, I'm sorry,
Okay.
that's what's in the memo.
All right.
You didn't have the memo in
So
front of you.
29,000,
So if you want to just approve up to 29.2 or 29.1, just in case there are any surprises, but we don't.
that would
pay-
include the extended?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't pay sales tax, so you're really just looking at a title fee and
All right.
warranty.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I generally just hate the extended warranties because I know what they're there for, but math just doesn't. I mean,
It's used.
If it's $550, I bought one once. The car that I'm driving right now. You know how much I got out of it? It was like $3,000. You know how much I got out of it? Nothing. And that's good because you don't want to have a problem, right?
I bought one and ended up on the other side of that.
Have ya?
So it averages out.
Okay, good, yeah.
But the ones I've looked at are a lot more expensive than
Yeah.
$550.
Oh,
I can tell you that right now.
Yes,
To me,
absolutely. I
that
paid
almost
more than
sounds like
that.
actual value.
Yeah, I mean, you,
Yeah.
minor bumper.
$40,000.
Yes. Right.
Who gets the phone calls about extended warranty?
Everybody, Bob.
Is there any other questions from the board?
I just wanted to know what's happening to the whole truck.
We're gonna put that on.
Municipal.
Municipal.
It's got, we could probably get 4,000 or 5,000 out of it. It's a auction site for municipalities.
Okay.
So instead of having to do sealed bids locally, we put it up on the website. We sold a couple vehicles that way before.
So if we did get 5 or 6, again, that's just gonna reduce the 29,1, that's what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
down to 23
And one
for
thing
a
I
new truck.
One
or,
thing I
you know.
forgot to mention, we did have this in the budget for last year. We just got through the year without having to spend it. We already budgeted 25 and 22.
Eked another year out of it, huh?
We
Yep.
squeezed the last piece out of that.
And this is Pat Shaw driving this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Don't
it-
know something that we need to know.
And having 3 lawyers to my left and being in business for over 4 decades, I can tell you this, with hundreds of employees, that truck needs to be sold. And we've got Pat's driving around in a truck, in my opinion, and not that it's unsafe, but, for the liability for this township, I believe that we need to put him in something that is safe, that has, that truck is what, 15 years old? 19 years old.
2004.
So,
And I would pat Tom on the back because I will tell you all, I just bought a truck in September. If this had come along, this is it. terrific deal.
Oh, my God.
I mean, trucks, right now, the values of truck are just stupid.
No, Tom did a great job.
I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get more for the old blue than what we're talking about, just because of the way the value is. But to get this kind of vehicle with that low mileage for this price, I know this market.
Yeah.
That is a great deal.
I
And it's,
just don't see Pat in a downsized truck. True.
all right, any other questions from the board? Comments?
Let's get out of here.
All right, okay, I need a motion to approve the purchase of a 2021 Chevrolet Colorado work truck from Vic Canover Chevrolet for a total cost not to exceed $29,200 as presented.
With an extended warranty.
That includes the extended warranty, not to exceed 29.2. Is that enough cushion for you there, Tom? All right.
the motion.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. Reed,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rain.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has any additional comments or concerns?
Happy New Year, all.
Yes. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next business order, which is public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I will now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. First, is there anyone attending tonight's meeting that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? If so, please make your way up to the podium, and would ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone here? All right, moving on to anyone that has joined us via Zoom. I guess there's only one person out there. If you would like to address this board tonight on non-agenda items, please unmute your mic and certainly address the board.
No, it hasn't moved since the meeting started.
Takes a lot of self-control. That long, you know.
All right, if there is nobody attending tonight or anyone that is attending via Zoom, I say good night and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.